What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, I want to update you guys about something that I saw today. And I want you to listen to me before you make a snap judgment on this. It was about, maybe a month ago when RFK Jr., controversial figure because of his beliefs on the elixir and others, so-called conspiratorial beliefs. But anyway, it was about maybe a month ago, I guess now, when RFK Jr., the son of the late Senator, former U.S. Attorney General Robert Kennedy, announced that he was running to seek the Democratic presidential nomination. That's going to be an arduous task, of course, because of the fact that he'll be running against Joe Biden, who is the incumbent president. Now, initially, RFK Jr. was nowhere to be found in the polls. 5%, 6%. Marianne Williamson, who ran back in 2020, she's the only other declared candidate. She was at maybe 5%, 6%. But then I saw a poll 2 weeks ago that had Biden down from, say, close to 80% to 69% support in the polls for the Democratic presidential nomination. And RFK Jr. was up to 14%. Marianne Williamson was at about 7%. But now there's a new Fox News poll that has Joe Biden's support down to 69%. At least I think it's a Fox News poll. Let me make sure of that. Yes, a Fox News poll. 2024 Democratic presidential nominee preference among Democratic primary voters. Joe Biden is now down to 62%. RFK Jr. is at 19%. And Marianne Williamson at 9%. Now, I know many of you are going to be saying to me, well, Michael, that's still a 43 percentage point blowout. I mean, what is there to be nervous about if you're Joe Biden? Well, if you're an incumbent president running for re-election, normally the opposition to the party, from your party as far as your nomination, or your renomination, I should say, the opposition within your party is minimum. I'll give you an example I'm talking about. When Barack Obama ran for re-election in 2012, he faced no major opposition to his re-election within his party. He won something like 98+% of all available delegates, maybe even close to 99%. He almost swept all of them. He won every contest. It wasn't even close. He won like 89% of the total vote in the primary process. And in polling, he was, in some polls, clearing well over 90% of the Democratic voters' preferred candidate vote. So for Joe Biden to be in the low 60s is an ominous sign for an incumbent president within his own party. Within his own party, I should say. Listen, that means that 4 out of 10 voters in the Democratic Party are not even supporting Joe Biden. They're either not supporting him or they're uncertain whether he should run again. And part of it, obviously, is his age. Joe Biden is 80 years old. He'll be 81, I believe, this December. So he'll be an 81-year-old running for the Democratic presidential nomination. And if he does win re-election, he'll be 82 years old when re-elected. Meaning that if he survives his second term, he'd be 86. To put this into perspective, when Ronald Reagan was elected in 1980, he was 69. And there were already people who thought he was a bit too old to be president. Considering that, when you look at it from a historical standpoint, we had one president, William Henry Harrison, who died just a month into office being old and sickly, at age 68. We had another president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was 70 when he left office in 1961. And during his term of office, he suffered a heart attack that nearly killed him, a stroke, and had to have an intestinal operation in 1956, I believe it was. Another president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who died when he was 63 years old of a massive cerebral hemorrhage. Another president, Woodrow Wilson, who was 63 when he suffered a massive stroke, which basically incapacitated him for the remainder of his second term. So the point I'm trying to drive at is that age does play a factor. Now, of course, we're living longer lives than ever before. At the turn of the century, the average American lived to be 47. When Eisenhower was president, the average lifespan was about 60. Now the average lifespan is around 78, 79. So we're living longer than ever before. But still, you can be physically healthy, like Joe Biden is. But to be president of the United States, it requires a mental acuity. Jimmy Carter, who appears to be in his final days, said not too long ago, when he was 95 years old, he was interviewed, he said, when I was 80, because he could constitutionally run for president again if he had wanted to, having only served one term, but he said, if I had chosen to run again when I was 80, I couldn't have done the job because I didn't have the energy or the mental acuity. Not saying he wasn't cognitively there, but it requires a mental acuity and a flexibility in your thinking to be president. And he didn't think that he could do it at age 80. And this is a man who, Jimmy Carter, was one of the smartest presidents we ever had. Not to mention other things that have gone on with Joe Biden as far as his policies that are not seen by some as in the mainstream of the country. So RFK Jr., do I think he's going to win the nomination? I don't think so. But would I vote for him? Absolutely. I vote for him over Joe Biden. Because it's not about a popularity contest, it's about voting who you think is the best candidate. And if we had that mindset, voting who we think is the best candidate rather than being programmed to vote for Obama's right-hand man, well, I think we have a better man in office. And by the way, I'm not ashamed to admit this. I don't want Kamala Harris to become a president. I just think she'd be a disaster. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It's just the fact that I think she would be a complete disaster as president of the United States. And to be even more blunt, if Donald Trump ran for office, and he's no spring chicken either, because he'd be 78 if he was renominated by the Republicans in 2024. He'd be 78 years old. I have a strong feeling that he may run with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I think would be an even bigger disaster than Kamala Harris. So I have a ventured interest this time in perhaps voting for RFK Jr. because either way, I think we're fucked. Either way. I know some people be like, well, why would you vote for a guy that you know is not going to win? Because it doesn't matter if I vote for Biden because we lose either way. You vote for Trump, we lose. You vote for Biden, we lose. In my opinion, just my opinion. I know a lot of you guys are Trump supporters. A few of you are Biden supporters. But I think both of them are terrible, terrible candidates. But anyway, for Robert Kennedy to be getting almost 20% support in polling when he's getting absolutely no shine from the mainstream media, no attention. Just imagine if he was getting attention. You know, uh, I think the best case scenario for Robert Kennedy is maybe he has some sort of candidacy, and I think anybody that's old enough to remember will know what I'm talking about. I think the best case scenario for him would be maybe sort of like a what's the guy that ran 1980? Anderson. Um, he could possibly run as an independent in 2024, and maybe get 4, maybe 5% of the vote. Now, who would he hurt more? More than likely Biden. And if he ran, he would probably, it could probably be enough to maybe swing the election to Trump. Who knows? But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Like I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But who's the guy? Oh, John Anderson. It was John B. Anderson. That was his name. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.